You know, as I thought about today, and what could I give you all that would be useful in your future, I pulled out an outline of a presentation that I did for my own industry, which is the financial services industry. And there's basically 5 levels. I said there's basically 5 levels that everybody goes through. The beginning, which is just fear of failure. You know, working night and day, doing whatever you have to do to not fail, not to succeed, just to not fail, to be able to barely pay my bills and support my son. Then survival is the next phase. So I got past. I didn't fail. You know, I didn't lose my job, but I had to now survive. I had to figure out how to perform in the business. Then becoming a successful agent in the financial services industry. Then the next level I entitled the Fat Cat Syndrome. When you have succeeded, you have a little more money than you really need to live on. And it's it's a wonderful problem to have to solve. It stumps a lot of people. They never get over that. They never get past that. Eventually, they fall back into survival again. And then I call it the super successful profession. So I'm going to try and use some of the things that, from this. Some of this is specific to my industry, but a lot of it's just fundamentals of human achievement. And some of the things you're going to have to do to be great in whatever field you're going to choose. And if I have a little time, I'll talk to you about a job, because you're all going to be faced with looking at a job. And a job's going to look really good right now, because someone's willing to pay you to go into work and do something. You're not going to really know what to do because you haven't really worked in that field. And they'll pay you a certain amount of money for that, and it may look good initially. And then there's a career or a profession. And the difference between the two is significant, because one, you're going to work, it's going to be based on your own results, your own performance, and you're going to have to achieve the necessary results to succeed. But the upside for that career path is unlimited. The sky, it's just in your head. If you pick the right career, it's how high you want to go. And the other one will always be controlled by others. There'll be somebody you'll report to. There'll be a bureaucracy or a company that will set the pay scale, and you'll be basically told what to do, when you're free, when you don't have to, how much vacation, and what you might be able to earn. And there's a big difference. And in America, we have this tremendous freedom. And with the information age, it's even easier to have more freedom. But it's still no easier to achieve financial independence through your work effort and through systematically saving over time. So, but it's doable. The first fundamental I would say is the key to my life has been the establishment of goals, setting goals. The first book that I read, and I read a lot of books to try and figure out how do you become successful. The one book that I still revisit is a book called Think and Grow Rich. And the book was actually was a book written by a man by the name of Napoleon Hill, and he was hired by Andrew Carnegie to go out, and his job was to study the most successful people in America and write a book about what he learned, the fundamental common denominators that they all had that allowed them to be successful. And one of the things they all said and did was they all had clearly defined goals written goals, and they had developed the habit of reading them daily. So when I tell you, that all you need to do is write down your goals, your wildest dreams, and read them twice a day. Who here thinks they could do that? Right? Doesn't sound that hard. But it is, because most people don't do it. I think only probably less than 2% of the people even have clearly defined written goals. I happen to go, I've been in a program for entrepreneurs for the last 15 years. I go every 90 days. And every 90 days, almost every 90 days, I rewrite my 10 and 20-year goals. And oftentimes I get off track. I lose the habit of reading them every day. And what I find happens is you end up drifting and just doing things and being busy. And it's a critical habit, because I can say that every single thing that I have ever written down and read has happened in my life. And so when you think about things that are important, if you got one thing today, one thing, and made it a part of your life, you got the habit. What I did is I'd write these goals out, and I would tape record them into a tape player. Remember cassettes? I don't even know what cassettes are. And I'd listen to it on my way into work, and I'd listen to it on my way home, and I'd listen to other people throughout the day. But I disciplined myself I developed that habit. Think about exercising, physically exercising muscles. Well, this is exercising your mind. And God gave us the brain is an incredible mystery. It's probably the greatest computer in the world. Think about the operation of your body, your nervous system, everything, all your organs. It's doing all that as we're sitting here, and yet, and we have this unbelievable capacity, but we only use this much of it. So, and again, nobody could explain the why part. Like, why does this work? How does it? I don't know that they've even discovered that yet. They just know it does. The brain can figure it out. It'll bring the people into your life. It'll bring you whatever you need to accomplish those things, and it will affect your behavior if you can get that one important habit. I have in here, I have my goals that I wrote out in 1982. Now, in 1982, I was 28 years old, so a young person. And these were my lifetime wildest dreams that I could think of. It's hard because at each life, if I said, Darryl, write me your wildest dreams. They're from your perspective today. And so these were from my perspective then. And I'll just share a couple of them. I wanted to be financially independent. I thought that would be a good thing, where my unearned income is equal to my earned income, that's my definition, by the way, of financial independence. Not retiring, but not having to work. Working because you want to. And I defined that the number that I needed a year was $100,000 per year that I needed. Where I wanted to have my own financial planning center, corporate office center with all the financial disciplines on premises that are needed to provide total financial information to the self-employed person. I wanted to earn $500,000 a year. I wanted to be able to give 50% of all my income to charity to help the world. I wanted to have professional designations in CLU, CHFC, CFP, etc. And and I had a description of our firm with 25 top of the table producers. That's an industry standard for some of the top people in our business. So this was my pipe dream. I have other goals that I was, I happened to uncover in preparation for today. I looked in here when I was 4 or 5 years ago. I had a goal to create the business school for entrepreneurial studies at Westchester. So every single thing that I wrote and read has happened in my life. So, it almost sounds silly when I say it, I can tell when I say it to people, they just don't think that it could possibly be that easy. It's not, because you have to discipline. It's like getting in shape. It's not that easy. It takes time. You have to do it over and over and over again. And this is your mind, and this is developing yourself. So, and then I have thought conditioners. These are the things that I would read every day to overcome adversity. Because I actually had a program that had stuff I needed for Monday. I hated Mondays. I think it went back to my school days. I used to hate Sunday nights. I really hated Mondays. I struggled to get up. I went in and it was a mental, so I needed motivation. So I would have things that I would listen to that were motivating. Sometimes I needed to listen to them on Tuesday. Usually by Wednesday I was over that and I could start to listen to the people that would teach me things. Sometimes I'd have to go back to the motivational stuff the whole week. But, I put things in my mind that helped me think positively about the world and how I wanted to approach it, my attitude. Because your attitude is all you control. You cannot control other people. And one of my favorite lines from my friend is, he always says, put your trust in Jesus because people will disappoint you. And people, there's always going to be a negative, look at the newspaper, look at the television, most of what you read is about negativity. Seldom do you see like heartwarming or motivational stories that you look at it and go, hey, that lifted me up. I learned something that will help me be a better person. You're not going to get that. You're going to have to find that. You're going to have to put that in front of yourself every single day of your life, I believe. So that when you go out there into the world, you're going to go out with the right attitude. Because we control that. You can't control anybody around you. You can try and influence them, but that's their job to deal with how they view the world and their own attitude. So I over the years, I've assembled page upon page. Now I probably can't read these because I didn't bring my glasses, but things that keep it all in perspective. Things that I have to keep in my mind every day, and I use this as part of my morning exercise program, if you will. So I exercise physically, and then I exercise mentally. It's these things with my goals and some daily prayer. And then, and then things like, to keep it all in perspective, I've lost lots of people that I love in my life, and friends. And so try not to forget them. So I have pictures, because the world's going to bring you problems every day. And, you need to always, stay grounded in the gift that today is and the blessings that we all have that will work, no matter what our problems are. And so I have a whole bunch of things. This thing is about there's 96 thought conditioners that I've culled out of different books. I actually have 2 pages of these things. And it's funny, I can read them one day, and one of these things will just jump out, or it'll come back to me in the middle of that day. So, start to build you know, your thought conditioner program. What are the things that you like to read that lift you up, that help you stay focused on what's really important in your life and in the world? And then obviously daily prayer. We're not in this alone. And then the last one I have on here is the importance of systematically saving money. If you can develop the habit, and I have worked with, I guess I've been in the business for almost 35 years, and I've had the opportunity to work with many, many people that are, you know, very successful. Some of them have earned millions of dollars a year. You know, sometimes one of the exercises we will go through and say, you know, how much have you earned in your lifetime since you've been working? And you add it all up. And it could be, you know, for a surgeon or a business person, sometimes a lot of money, you know, tens of millions. Then I ask the hard one, how much of that, if we had to today, would, you know, get right to? It's like we can write a check against it. And it's never a good answer. Because people, you know, if you're ever going to become financially independent, you have to get the habit of saving. And then I also believe with that is philanthropy. You have to have the habit of giving. And it needs to be, you know, it's not like, oh, geez, once I have enough money, then I'll save, or then I'll give. There isn't enough money. I don't care how much you make, you will spend it all. That's another mystery. I call it the mystery of the universe. I remember when I made $10,000 a year. That was a lot more than I made as a golfer. As a golf professional, I netted $88 a week after taxes. And you may say, well, that was a long time ago. Believe me, even if you do the present value calculation, it was not a lot of money to be supporting 3 people. So when I made $10,000 a year, I thought, geez, I should do a lot. I should be able to save some of that. But you know, I needed another car. I needed a car that the window closed on. I needed maybe a rug in my house or a chair to sit. You know, so I had reasons to spend it. So then I thought, well, geez, if I could ever make $20,000 a year, then I'll be rich. Because I'm living okay on 10. I'll save the other 10. And then you get to that, and then you think, well, geez, I need a better car, or I need a sofa, or you know, an on and on. And then it's 50. If I could ever make $50,000 a year, then I'll be rich because we're living great on 20,000. And I can honestly say that it doesn't ever stop. It doesn't ever stop. It doesn't matter. So unless you develop the habit of saving some part of every dollar you make and putting it somewhere where it's saved, you will have to work the rest of your life. You will have to, because again, there's only there's only a few ways to accumulate wealth: inherit it, marry someone that has it, or earn it and save it yourself. So you guys, maybe you could try those, at least one of those two. But the one you can count on is you earning it and saving the rest of your life. And if you do that, you can get to financial independence where you work for the fun of it, where you only do what you want to do and deal with who you like and the kinds of people and the kinds of things you'd like to work with. And that truly is a gift. That is true financial independence. So it's probably not taught. I don't know how many of you it's emphasized. The mathematical. You can look at the magic of compounding and all those numbers, and the sooner you begin, the better you'll be. And the longer and the cost of waiting every year you put. I'll start next year. I'll start. It pushes that thing out into the future, and I see people. 60, 65, having to still work. They have a lifestyle that they enjoy, it's wonderful. But they have no chance of ever staying unless they continue to work. And, it gets old. It's not that easy, to work like you all can work at those ages. So you just don't have the stamina nor the desire. So, again, a gigantic key, I think, to being successful, whatever you do, is to get that habit. But the other one that I think is crucial is never-ending education. And education is, there's different types of education. For most of you, you learn how to study and memorize stuff, and you're learning things in a classroom environment. That's one type of education. But better than that is applied knowledge. Out trying to, there's a course I go to and for entrepreneurs, and what he always talks about is testing your ideas by trying to find out if someone will actually write a check for the idea. Seeing if it's truly workable. And so there's the continuous search for knowledge, because knowledge is power, and that's in a structured environment, and being around people that have things that you can learn from. Because there's a heck of a lot of people out there, and with the internet and access to technology, you can learn all the time. But it can be things you're really interested in learning about. And then, there's always structured programs in whatever industry that you're going to apply yourself. And then there's, things that can support your careers, and that you can never stop learning. I've always, as part of my, the planning process, when I look out over the next 90 days, I look at what do I want. So it may be books that I need to read, it may be study groups that I'm going to go to, seminars, things I'm going to, my educational investment is never ending. I still do it. I took my last test about 2 years ago. I got a degree in, I became a chartered advisor of philanthropy. And I said, because I'll tell you what, it's hard to memorize stuff as you get older. The stuff just bounces off your head. It must be full. So it was either that or, if you look at this group, the things that we did back in these days probably destroyed some things in our heads. So, you have to continue to educate yourself, and it can be getting professional designations is part of that. I haven't graduated. I always tell Chris, maybe he'll help me get my degree one day. I never graduated from college. I lied when I applied for a job and told them I did. I guess they didn't really care that much. But since then, I have, I've gotten all the professional designations. I'm a chartered underwriter, chartered financial consultant, chartered advisor of philanthropy. There's only 220 of us in the country. I go to a course every 90 days, basically. Still, I've been doing it for 15 years, and I'm exposed to some of the great entrepreneurs in the country. And I told Monica, one of the people in my class, is the guy that wrote the books, Chicken Soup for the Soul. Earl Nightingale, Vic Conant, Nightingale Conant's in my class. I'm exposed to all kinds of interesting people that are doing fascinating things, and I do it all the time. So it's not formal education, but it's informal. So I'm always trying to learn, and luckily the business that I'm in is constantly changing. So I'm always able to learn new things. The tax laws change, the financial world changes, the financial products are constantly being innovated and changed. And so I'm never able to stop learning. And I would suggest that you lay out, now that you're going to be moving past this part of your education, that you think about what do you need to learn. Some of the fundamental skills that Monica and I talked about. Public speaking. One of the things that I chose a career in sales, and one of the things that I recognized in sales that every great salesperson memorized word for word what they were going to say, and rehearsed it over and over again, and got good. And again, in the beginning it sounded rehearsed, but in time it became, you or me. And it's really no different than a golfer. Jack Nicklaus is the greatest golfer that ever lived, but Jack Nicklaus still went out and chipped and hit wedges. It's not like he didn't know how to do it, but you constantly have to rehearse, you constantly have to improve yourself, because when you're going out there, especially in sales or a job interview, you may have one chance to make a first impression. You probably have about 2 minutes to make a difference. So what are you going to say in the first 2 minutes to get someone's attention and make a difference? So you get the next 2 minutes for them to maybe listen to you. And I used to videotape myself and use the audio so I hear what I sound like. And I would say, and I would hear the ohms. And when you don't know, when you're trying to, it's like on public speaking, I say ohm or you have things that you don't even realize you're saying. And so the idea of drilling for skill, I call it, was an important principle as you begin your careers, whatever career that is, so that when you have your chance to be with it out there, you make the most of it, because you may only have one shot. Now, as I go through these, one of the things, if you choose a career of, in most careers regarding sales is a wonderful career, because it is a career that allows you to kind of write your own ticket in terms of, usually they'll give you a compensation model that says, whatever you do, you're going to pay for it. So it's the sky can be the limit. But most people fail at it because it's hard, because of rejection. And you have to overcome it. You have to know that, well, you know what, it is a numbers business. And what's the difference between the people that succeed and the people that didn't succeed? The people that succeeded were willing to do the things that had to be done that the failures would not do. The failure was willing to accept whatever the result was, try their best, and just accept whatever that got for them. The successful person is willing to do whatever it takes and continue to persist through adversity. And, I forget, I think the quote was from the fellow that's kind of the leader of IBM way back when he said that he was talking to one of the people, and one of his people was struggling. He said, son, you have to, or daughter, you have to increase your failure. Meaning you have to go out and, through trial and error, figure this out. But in those failures is where you're going to learn your most important lessons. Not when things are going well. Not when it's important. You're going to learn from the things that didn't work. And that's going to be sort of, nature will self-correct for you. But you have to be willing to persist. Most people aren't. Most people quit long before they achieve success. So that's a common denominator. I was blessed that I had no choice. I had to make it, because I had the unbelievable responsibility of providing for my wife and my son and my daughter in the middle, and independent of me. God knew that I needed that. Because remember this guy? He knew there was a degenerate hiding in this body, and he knew he had to keep that on me so that I would persist through it all. Now, and then as I got past the first couple phases, I then I look at some of the characteristics in this what I call the survival phase. Planning. I had a very disciplined approach. I would sit down once a week and just organize my time for the week. I would do that in more detail once a month, and it was a habit. So sometimes I'd have a bad week where I just wandered, I wasn't organized, I just did stuff, but it would only usually be a bad week. I wouldn't wake up 3 months later and go, oh my God, what just happened? So the habit of planning, taking the time to figure out how you're going to spend your time, and then who you're going to spend your time with. And I'll talk about the concept of leveraging yourself. But some of the fundamentals are attitude, drill for skill, and I have personal financial plan, all parts of that, the next level. And as I look at this, once you're successful, mastery of phase 1 habits. So it's the habits, you can't lose some of these fundamental habits. And now, did I lose those habits along the way? Of course I did. And you have to, it's like getting out of shape. What do you have to do to get back in shape? You have to work. And after a few days or a week or so, all of a sudden, you're in shape. So some of this stuff is just like that. But one habit, if you're constantly looking at your goals, not just your short-term goals, but your long-term goals, and you actually do that every morning, it will affect your behavior. I promise you. You will not wander through day after day after day. You will change your behavior. You will start to spend your time differently. As you develop, now here's one of the challenges. I touched on this briefly, but having a job versus becoming an entrepreneur, and there's lots of ways to become an entrepreneur. But one of the struggles that they'll have to overcome is, at some point, you have to. In the beginning, you have to work night and day. I wish I could tell you there's a secret way to get successful. There isn't. It's hard work. It's not easy. And it's going to take you 5 to 10 years of hard work. And if you're not willing to do that, you have to then accept whatever results happen. But if you are willing to commit, and you make sure you're plugged into the right opportunity, one of the challenges you're going to be faced with is how do you grow? Because we'll reach a point in time where you can't do anymore. You just can't work any harder, and you get trapped by what I call the ceiling of complexity. Meaning you're just not willing to work anymore. You can't work anymore and have a life, and you're stuck. Now. Stuck at a level that maybe a lot of people would be thrilled with, but you're now become a prisoner of that, and you have to kind of get out from under it. And this program that I've gone to, it's helped me think differently. It's called the Strategic Coach. But one of the concepts they gave me, it was a giant aha. They said you have to look at investing in people, delegation, as an investment in yourself. And the analogy that they went through was, if I was going to invest $50,000 as the example in something, first of all, I have to earn more than that to have $50,000 to invest in something. I have to put the money in up front typically. There's usually no guarantee of a return. And then let's say I'd be happy with a 10% return. and I have pretty much no control over the performance, so I have to invest in some mutual fund. If I invest in people people or resources to buy me time to do what I'm great at, or what I love, which, by the way, you'll find will be the same thing. That investment is after. I mean, I can deduct that money, so it's tax deductible. It costs me about a little more than half the investment. I only have to pay it each week to the person or people that are doing the work. And when I measured how much time I could free, all the stuff I was doing, how much time I could buy, it was. And then I looked at that time, and the question that was asked is, what if you had that extra time to spend on things you're great at, or your best money-making opportunities? What kind of money could you earn? And it was, mind-boggling. So the concept of investing in things, people that free you up and buy you time is a never-ending process for the entrepreneur. And I know all of you who have yet to start working this concept probably is, I can see some of you start to glaze over. So for those veterans in the room, it's a key concept. And a lot of people are afraid to let go. The guy that teaches this course, he worked in the military in the entertainment area, and he watched Frank Sinatra. And his favorite line was, Frank Sinatra doesn't move pianos. Frank only sang. Frank had a whole team who could set everything up before he got there. Frank came out, grabbed that microphone, did his thing, and put it back in the stand and walked off. And he built this infrastructure around, so that's all he had to do. Muhammad Ali, and there's great people that figured out how to surround themselves with a team. So all they really are doing is what they've discovered is their unique ability, and they're leverage themselves. So that one concept has changed my career, changed our company, how we think. We work in teams where each person we actually go through a study of, there's independent testing that you can do. I'll share it with Monica if any of you want to go through it. Figure out what your unique skills are. And really, that way you can plug yourself into a job or a career where your probability of success will be much greater. Because there's certain things you're not going to know. You may be forced to learn how to do everything at the beginning, but ultimately, if you can, figure out your job or career that fits what you're naturally going to enjoy and be good at, you can save a lot of unnecessary education. The other concept, and this is another one probably for the veterans, the one program, in this program, excuse me, they started a concept of free, focus, and buffer days. And they said, first of all, identify your free days. And the definition of a free day was 24 straight hours where you don't think about work, you don't read about work, you don't talk about work, you don't text. You're done. You're free. You're rejuvenating your mind. That's what's so great about God. And put those in first, and then work around your life. Most entrepreneurs live. It's the other way. They work and they live around their work when they can, and they tend to be prisoners of their work. This approach was opposite of that. Figure out when you're not going to work, and his idea is to create as many periods in a year of mental rejuvenation. Because his theory is, and I agree, is that 5 to 10 days after an extended break, you're at your best. And impossible concept to get your minds around as you just go into your first career as well. Critical concept. And then the other concept is identify on a focus technique identified the top 20 money-making relationships, money-making opportunities that you have. So whatever you're going to be doing, there's lots of things you could be doing, lots of people you could spend your time with. But, the idea is that in those focus days, discipline yourself to spend 80% of your time with those, your most important relationships. Don't do other stuff those days. Have buffer days to do stuff. Buffer days are when you prepare for your focus day. Get ready for the days that you're going to be most productive, and then cleaning up after, following up with all the stuff that you have to do after you spend the time in focus day. So that concept, can change, because many times you'll find that you'll spend your whole day doing stuff, and get at the end of the day, what did I just do? And I'm sure we've all experienced it even in school. What did I just do? And I wasted all this time on stuff. So again, go back to your goals, go back to your most important things that you're working on, if it's your career or whatever, and actually list out. And then in those focus days, don't let anything interfere with spending your time with those people or on those projects. And part of the idea is then delegate everything you really don't want to do or you're not good at. It still has to be done by somebody. And that's a futuristic type of thought, but one that has helped me grow in my business and always be doing try and always be doing what I'm really good at and what I enjoy doing. And you always get pulled back into the stuff. But that's where the planning process helps you, because you sometimes will go through a period of time where you just flounder, and then I gather myself, and then I revisit how I want to live the rest of my life, and I revisit my 10 and 20-year goals. I guess there's the other things here. There's a lot of things, and I'll share that. I'll give some of these things to Monica to share with all of you if you would like them, and so you can sort of take some of these things that I've used and pull out of this what would be helpful to yourselves. And I guess really, I think I'd like to maybe then, if you have any questions, why don't we, how about if I open it up for questions and, see if I can answer. Anybody have any questions?
How do you know when you've got the right career for you?
Excuse me?
How do you know when you've got the right career for you?
Well, I knew, I guess I found out what I didn't want to do. I discovered I didn't want to be a golf pro, and I didn't want to be a mason's helper. The guy who mixes the cement, who moves the cinder blocks. I discovered I didn't want to be a grounds crew worker at a golf club. And, when I started in the business that I'm in, I didn't think I wanted to do that either, but I didn't have a choice. So, because when I was in the beginning stages of it, we didn't know what we were doing. We were completely learning how to be successful in our business. I used to call a phone book up and down Westchester Pike and walk in on gas station owners and start talking about life insurance and financial planning. So it was not fun. I got a lot of I dealt with a lot of rejection. So if someone would have offered me a job right then, like when I was maybe 22 or 23, I would have taken it. Right then, I would take it because it was better than what I was doing. But I always wanted to help people, and I knew that what I was doing could help people. I believed in what I was selling, and And I also, because of my education, I exposed myself to others that were super successful. And I would look at these people and think, wow, they did it. They can do it. What about I can do it? And that really helped me just persist through the beginning stage. Because in the beginning stages of, I'm sure if you talk to a physician when they're in the residence program, and you think, to them, if that's all they're ever going to do, everyone will quit. It's a horrible thing. You're working 100 hours a week, you're making no money, you're sleeping in the hot. I mean, it's so. I don't know. I don't think anything in the beginning is going great. I think you have to look at those people in your industry that are established professionals that have been in it a long time, and get from them what the business can become, and then see if you like that vision. Not what you're going to have to do to get there, because it all will turn out, I think. But look, find people that you can look up to and go ask them a lot of questions, and ask them what they think of the business. If you talk to me about this business, I think I'm the greatest business in the world. What business could someone like me, coming from nothing, with no knowledge, how could anyone, no one to help financially achieve what I've achieved is without investing any money, other than investing back in myself. So there's plenty of careers where you can look at veteran people and they get it. They've been through it all, and they'll tell you. That's where you'll get your insight. But you have to do some things. That's why I love the internship. You have to try things. You guys have studied stuff in school. You're not going to like the field. You have to live with it. So you have to figure out, fundamentally, what are you interested in doing? Are you self-motivated or not? Are you interested in making money, a lot of money, helping people? There's jobs where you maybe just without making money. That may be motivating. So you have to, through trial and error, you have to figure out, what you really want to do. I don't think there's any way that you job say something. No, there's plenty more people to do. Very few people. I mean, think about this. I started, when you get out of high school, I don't know, whatever you did well at, you have to put something on the paper. Very few people even have any clue where they're going to be 4 years later. That's probably the same way. Just get out there. Volunteer. Go out and say, I want to look at this industry. I'll work for free for 3 months just to figure it out. Do whatever you have to do to pay your bills, but get in there and see if you like it. Rather than spend years at something. It's pretty easy to get a job if someone's not paid. And you're going to learn more volunteering and getting in there and trying to be helpful about the industry and see if you even like what they're doing.
Thank you for coming to Westchester, and thank you for being so generous to the Entrepreneurship program. My question is, are there areas in which you think colleges have not been successful in creating the kinds of graduates that you'd like to see in business or in business? That is to say, you have interaction with young people, and have colleges failed?
Well, I think a lot of it is the lack of applied knowledge in the field, in the world. Some of these fundamental things that I've talked about today, I don't know if we're receiving this type of knowledge, information, but really the idea of actually getting out there and doing things for real should be part of the process somehow. And I know, Monica and Chris are building it. So yeah, there's tons of things. I mean, if I could go back, there's stuff that I would love to, nutrition, fundamentals of financial management. systematic savings, how do you, just all the stuff that you need to deal with out there. People, a lot of people, all that's been done for them by their parents or someone else, and a lot of it you just have to learn once you get out there and start doing it. There's probably plenty of things. If I thought about it, I would train, how to goal set, how to plan as a fundamental, how to drill for skill, how do you opinion rehearse to improve your speaking skills and communication skills and things like that, tools that we use. Think about it, I almost got fired when I told people. I didn't know how to engage in conversation, but many of you may be shy and introvert naturally. I think that's more natural than where you're engaging people. So that's a learned skill. So I'll figure it out sometime.
What are your goals now?
That's funny you just asked me. I actually just, they're big, but I actually just redid them, and they're different, they're different than they once were. I may have lost them. They made me flip around after the parking lot when I lost my papers. Share a couple of highlights. Bear with me.
There's a business building that needs a name.
That's on there. That's on there. I'm helping there. I'm helping there. Oh, is it? Well, so one of my, these are some of the things that this was from a few years back, but I can't find all of it. But I wanted to become a philanthropic expert. I wanted to help contribute $1 billion a year to charitable causes. I wanted to be able to give 50% of my income each year. I wanted to spend approximately, I thought this back, 203 days a year where I'm not. I'll go out and just mentoring my family. I now have 6 grandchildren, so they become a big part of my things that I want to do, the time I want to spend to help them as well as people. So I want to become fluent in Spanish, which I'm glad I'm reading this because I did buy a place in Miami. If that's a start, it's mostly Spanish. But if I have enough martinis, I think I get to see the Spanish that might come out. I don't know. So things like that. So there's financial things, there's personal things that I want to be able to do. My wife and I, we actually have our own. We're putting together a bucket list of the places we want to see in the world. So I have my 10, and I'm waiting for her to do her 10. So we'll probably end up doing. The ones on my 10 that she doesn't like will get crossed off and then start. But things like that. What places in the world I like to go and see with my family and things like that. So, but it's good to, it helps me because as I go through some of this exercise, I do what I want to accomplish in 10 years, and then I really get out there, 20 years from now and start, daydreaming. And the fun thing about it is everything that I daydreamed about 20 years ago has come true. And some of the things that I was looking at, some of these things even 5 years ago, the 10-year goals, that happen. Some of them happen. Some of them I don't even want to accomplish it. Because I look at the world differently. Just the process of doing this is too bad. Any other questions? Don't be afraid to ask questions. There is no bad questions. The only way you're going to learn, by the way, is to ask questions. Because you already know what you know. And so I always ask. I could always tell someone that came into my business that whoever asked the most questions, they were always successful. So I used to torture people. I'd be like, they'd be like, ask me those questions. But anyway, because I didn't want to read back then. I figured, I'm going to ask Chris. He already read this stuff. Let me ask him the answer. They still Clifton. You guys still maybe know what they are? Like you just have a little summary of the book? No, sorry, you guys in the back. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you, what are some of the leaders that you have followed when you were young? And like, if you want to give up, who helped you keep up?
Excuse me?
Who were some of, like, you said follow certain people, pick up people?
There were people in my industry that I really, a guy by the name of Ben Feldman. I used to listen to him. We have a thing called the $1 Million Roundtable, which was even if you weren't a member, you didn't qualify. They had it's probably one of the largest sales meetings in the world. Today they'll have 15,000 people from all over the world that come. But the main platform speakers in that were the greatest people in my industry. And I would just listen to some of those greats and how they did it, what they said, their stories, and I really, it helped me. Remember I said, to listen to these people as I drove around going to meetings in my car. I used to drive all over the world trying to get people to see me. So I spent a lot of time in the car, and I tried to waste that time. I had these mentors, if you will, just, talking. Zig Ziglar, motivational. Tony Robbins and Zig Ziglar and Earl Nightingale and some of that. I just would listen to these tapes. A lot of that they were my heroes. I would listen to them and I would learn all the time. And I would constantly be looking for that kind of information. And the other question was, what helped me persist?
Yeah.
Through adversity.
I'm sure I can.
Fear of failure. Yeah. The knowledge that I couldn't fail helped. I knew truth. There was nowhere I could go. So whatever it took, that's what I had to do. And it was a blessing. I didn't, you don't think of it as a blessing, having money. And having known that you go to ask for money to help me in a pinch. But I realized it was really a gift. Because there was no safety net. I had to just figure it out. And sometimes I fall off and get back up. And a couple of times I wanted to quit, and I didn't. Because God had a hand in me. He was watching me, and give me something good would happen. But I think the idea of I always looked at where I wanted to be, what I wanted to become. I never looked at always what I had to deal with reality of today, but I was always focused on the future. And my mind went to the future, and it really did attract into my life the toughness, or the energy, or the discipline, or whatever to get there. And it also brought people. It's amazing when you have those brainwaves going out there. There's a lot of science in that. We don't know much about it, but it's true. I remember taking a course on this. It's called the Silver Method. It's a silver mind control developed by the Indians. But at the end of that weekend, I know what he was thinking. It was actually scary. They taught us in the weekend how to pick up his brainwaves. So that's how powerful the human mind is. Thank God I'm not able to do it anymore. God knows what you two are doing. But I know you think about the buildings. But so part of it's that subconscious mind that never sleeps. That you're putting these things into your subconscious mind, and it's going to figure out how to get you. quote from Henry David Thoreau. If one advances confidently in the direction of his or her dreams and endeavors to live the life which he or she has imagined, he or she will meet with success unexpected in common hours. So good luck to everyone, and God bless you, and hopefully you got something from the wisdom that I tried to share with you, and some of the mistakes that I made along the way, and things I learned that helped. Good luck.